My name is Teresa Lockwood. I reside in Vineland, New Jersey. I'm going to be recording somebody who keeps putting himself in this melancholic temperament category. And to respond to this, we're going to go by what is most likely deemed to what a melancholic temperament is. Okay. So I'm actually going to record him going through this process of trying to be something that he is not. Okay. I just want to let you know before I do all this, he's actually echoing William Clay, presenting to talk about identity. All right. After which previous sermons, he actually spoke against identity, which I actually spoke against him speaking against identity. Okay. So, yeah, claiming that people are not to identify anything. Now, this actually all started with people slandering me of the fraudulent Pentecostals, Calvary Chapel, and people in this Vineland Nazarene Ramoth Church and violent police trying to hide my identity and who I am by their slander. Okay. So when they slander me, I basically bring up and teach this, basically who I am, and I'm not your delusions that you project on me. And that actually was echoed by William Clay, stealing my words as he had done time and time again, throughout the past and throughout the years, as he basically pretended he was speaking on he didn't use the word delusions like I did, but people projecting who they are on you or whatever. And this is what these people do. I don't do that. So I'm all about basically who people is and identifying, they are as basically what they stand in to be. Their sin, though, is not their people's original identity. I actually, a number of years ago, made a pic that cast off the sin. Your sin is not who you are. Cast a sin from you, and be the real you that God intended you to be. Okay. And the thing is that, the other thing though, people do be part of what they conform to. It is still part of them. It is part of their identity still. It's not their original identity. But the thing is, it's just that people, yes, I mean, if somebody's really just heinously evil. I mean, I'm so evil. They did so many horrific things, or even on death row, for like all these acts that are, I'm not even going to, you can, imagine what those things are. But the thing is, yes, that person is evil, and that person is identified as the evil that they did. Okay. So the thing is that their original person? No, but it is a part of them. And the thing is look, I'm going to record this guy who is thinking that he is melancholy, and he's identifying this as his characteristic personality, I guess. And it is, look, we're going to go by the temperament claim about what it's supposed to be. So there's different look, you can go through different discussions about I say discussions or arguments throughout time as they actually dialogued or debated over this whole thing. Now, my whole thing is I was actually studying Aristotle at the time because of influences of the world and connections of other studies that actually just kept connecting to Aristotle and what is playing out in a role today and how people see things. And of course, there is actually writings that is actually the same exact principle that Paul uses. And I don't know if he referenced that to basically relating because he was speaking to Greeks and, the wisdom that they boasted in and things like that. I just want to let you know, the wisdom of God is the wisdom of God, and it's not deprived from any people, even if those people are have pagan influences or whatever the case may be. The problem is these churchians don't believe that their ideologies are pagan. So this is the thing. I took this there was this program type thing that they did. It was done by a false pastor, Dawn Reed, who actually continued to use it years later. I looked up online and tried to teach it in her church or whatever. And it is called the Spiritual Gifts Kit for Pastors. And off the bat, I was questioning it like, spiritual gifts kit for pastors? I mean, in regards to like, if somebody's of the Holy Spirit and gifted, um, um, by the knowledge that they have been given from God, the wisdom, knowledge, understanding they've been given from God. I mean, it just threw me off. But I was, I was actually an analytical person myself, and I was basically, all about like breaking this down or whatever. And the thing is, I took the test a little bit different, which I thought it would be more interesting, because it is true. There were some words I actually had to look up. And I just like, look, I'm not even going to do it this way. And there was like, I don't know, probably 100 like definitions of things or whatever. And you were supposed to mark off like what applied to you, what word with what definition applied to you. And so I was just like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all the definitions, read definitions, and mark it off by that. And the thing is, I found that some of the definitions, I could not make a choice of this definition. So I actually had to say, yes, half of that definition, but not that, but half of this. Or if it wasn't there, I had to, half of this, and I had to rewrite it at the end and basically select my answers. This is how I did it. Because when I was reading it, like some things they weren't lining up or rightly defined. So, and there were some things I had to look up. So, that's how I did it. So my test was like a little off. So in this test, it named like the 4 temperaments, okay? Like sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic, okay? So the thing is, they had all these false rules. I just want to let you know the book itself was so shallow, so uninsightful and undiscerning. And they tried to claim, I remember a part of the book, it sat there and said, oh, I know my husband is melancholy because he cut a hole in the wall and put a speaker in there. And then it ain't got nothing to do with melancholy, but you are dumb. And this is actually the writer who basically borrowed older Greek false philosophies and, of course, some true philosophies. I mean, like I said, look, this is the thing. This is one thing I liked about Aristotle. Aristotle questioned things. I actually was going to write a little bit on it and actually share it. And I looked up the same passage I used when I was in this church because, they were talking about them being like, named after like diseases and stuff like that. But like I said, I was studying Aristotle. I don't know how that connection was made or whatever, but I remember I said to this false pastor, Dawn Reed, I said to her that Aristotle said, why is black bile cause melancholy? Right now, the thing is, what I observed about Aristotle is that a lot of his thoughts were processing. Now, they made fun of my words. They isolate and single out my words and take everything out of context, what I say. So this false pastor was ranting off about, oh, it's a process. I'm not saying anything that they're saying, but they were just they distorted everything that I said and did. I mean, they were so degenerate; it was unbelievable. So the thing is, let me just record this real quick before I go any further. I think I have to back up. So this guy, he basically lists how he's trying to be something else. Of course, I actually like that he's demonstrating that it's relatable, that his own flaws. And not seeking and trying to be something that he was not, and not succeeding in that. And then he continues to express doing the exact same thing. I'm going to say this, first of all. I don't know if he's ever going to see this or not, but this is what I'm going to say, okay? And this is what I did. I rejected the whole thing. I made jokes about it. Oh, yeah, I'm a melancholic. And then I would say something quirky about it or whatever. My strong point came out melancholic, right? So under the temperaments and all these meanings, whatever, how to change some or whatever. And the thing is in this so-called test kit or whatever, it said you only can be 2. If there are a third one, it's a mask. So I explained this situation and my experience and who I am to this false pastor, Dawn Reed, who's trying to fit, how do I say this? Trying to fit this non-reality false doctrines that actually twisted the Bible. It twisted a passage from, I think it's Corinthians, where it said, it was talking about the body of Christ, if you will, and parts of the body, and saying, just because I am not a foot, am I not part of the body? And the thing is, it wasn't lining up with what they were trying to present in this distorted. The knowledge was not concrete, was not like confirmed and locked in and confirms itself within itself like the knowledge that is in the Bible, which their false misinterpretations did not either, because they were taking the word of knowledge, which I identified this is the only reason why it's of God. Well, if you interpret Paul is really complex. These churches cannot interpret Paul as much as they claim that they do. But the thing is, I was rejecting it. And I wound up speaking to this other woman, which was there one of the days with Dawn Reed, and I was explaining and teaching her how it does not line up and what Paul was saying about, parts of the body of Christ and things like that or whatever. So the thing is, I try to explain I say I'm not in agreement with this, and I try to do it very submissively and friendly or whatever. And I did give her points that I actually really did like, okay, to let her know that it's not all, okay, it's contaminated, but everything that's in it's not all bad. It just kind of, distorts what is good. So, actually, I said, that is cute that it says, and I'm trying to relate it to something of her, shallow, sanguine mind. Said she came out as, sanguine choleric. And I find it hard to believe that you're just not going to accept any other definitions and all the other things. I can't be bound to it. And I told her, I said, she's like, well, whoever you were as a child is your authentic self. Now, the thing is, I always present my authentic self. Now, the thing is, once you don't, we'll say the same thing. Okay? So, the thing is, I said, that's impossible. So, because I explained to her why. I said, as a child, I was very introverted, shy, and they actually slandered me being shy and said, oh, I'm shy because I have shame. No, I didn't have shame. But they just delusionally made that up. This is a thing. Their carnal selves, right? They're going to sit there and try to depict what is in there. Now, if they're carnal, evil, which they were, they're actually going to expose themselves, well, as if Dawn Reed or others who try to depict themselves as under the sanguine choleric or whatever. And like I said, the writings were very shallow in the book and very just ignorant, written from basically what could be considered of the many definitions under the sanguine mind, which actually describes what people deem as ADD or something. Okay, forgetting this, not the very organized ADD. And the thing is that so what I realized, because of their so-called superficial cheerfulness and even being cheerful of over people being evil, that I actually came up with this term actually not too long ago. I actually thought of it probably about a year ago. It was a couple of thoughts here or there, and then I actually just more expressed it when it came around again or whatever, because they keep basically using this woman who attacked and bullied me, coming out as basically, the smiling psychopath. So carnally, she would fit under this sanguine choleric. Okay? The dippy, dumb, debased-minded, degenerate, undiscerning, control freak, psychopath, evil person. So, anyway, I think I just want to let you know that this whole gift kit for pastors, we don't need that. So people think they're actually using it to discern people, and they may exclude, by the way, the melancholic. Like I was attacked for being more of the deeper melancholic or whatever. So the thing is, it's just like, but the thing is, I'm not going to conform to the rules of the test when it's not my authentic self, as they were trying to depict me in. You have to be only two or once a mask. It's not true. I was just like, okay, I only did the definitions and basically answered definitions, and I had most of it was strong in melancholic and phlegmatic, but I have answered some definitions under the sanguine and some under the choleric, but they weren't basically controlling. I was basically very introverted and reserved at the time. The thing is, my characteristic did change since then. Okay, I got more. Now the thing is, I was actually, when I was in there working and actually dealing with different characteristics of people. Okay, because I was I wanted to do a ministry, but I needed to learn that of how to encounter people, especially when I was being bullied by a number of them, and they were pretty much carnal and trying and pretending to be of God and things like that. And they were pathological liars, mentally unstable. And it was just really, really disturbing. I showed them kindness, and it was just like, it's just like they're trying to influence other people to deceive them, to bury me. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to just influence you with kindness. I went back, I treated them with kindness, and they just they were mentally abusive. It was really, really disturbing. So the thing is that, they had lead pastor, a false pastor, William Clay, said he came out, it was said by Dawn Reed that he came out as melancholic, choleric. Okay, so now the thing is, we're gonna go by the definitions. Look, this is the thing. I do not believe that people's characteristic is going to just stay and fit into. Well, they didn't even have an insightful view of what these things are. They're very shallow. The thing is, their characteristic is unsanctified in the first place. So if we're going to go by the melancholics, and so Pastor Brandon is claiming to be melancholic, so is false Pastor Lewis. This is the thing. I'm going to give the basic. Now, I could look up a list online. I try to see what it is. It doesn't actually describe what that is. And some of it I am going to go by my characteristic. So there was a statement that I looked up. Okay, I don't have it up here. I did close it out. That's really terrible. All right, so I was trying to look up the phrase that I read in a book, like Aristotle's works, like years ago in the library. So I looked up the question of why does black bile cause melancholy. Now the thing is, he was searching, and it was obvious that Aristotle was in the midst of a lot of discussions and debates and questioning or claims, like medically, philosophically, and all these other things. And the anatomy and the human body and the expressions and what they're not very clear on basically the temperaments and things like that, and what they say. And the thing is, people are not bound to just being you have the deep thinker who is a fun person, and choleric. The choleric, like a controlling person, or maybe it was compared to basically the business person, in control things, very presentation of diagrams, drawing diagrams, and business like CEOs and probably in advertising, things like that, or whatever that you put the person into. Business owners and things like that, yada, yada, yada. So the executive type mind, yada, yada, yada. And, you have, look, I'm just going to go, I can go to talk about many things on these, on these claims or whatever. Now, the thing is, I'm not excluding that, like, there's a certain characteristics that for people that can be fitting to their personality type that would be beneficial in doing this or that, and others will not be good for doing this or that. Okay, so the thing is just that, go back to what I was saying before. Like Dawn Reed, I was explaining to her, I was like, as a child I was more phlegmatic. Like I used to be this, and I'm not. It's just not me. I cannot go back to being like that. That was just a part of me. People change. She's trying to insist that whoever you were as a child is your original personality. I'm like, no, it isn't. I said I'm kind of like an ambivert. They didn't use the word ambivert and introvert and extrovert or whatever. I brought it in there because that was just some things that I actually have researched or whatever before this. And I was just basically, because that is expressive. Like, people, I mean, you can recognize a person who was more quiet, reserved, likes to observe more than to speak more or to stand up, and they demonstrate as a person that they can be used for behind the scene things or whatever, yada. And the choleric is could be the pastor, the leader, and all these other stuff, and it's just they're distorting what people are, who people are, what they're supposed to do, and they're acting like they're making decisions based on these things. So the thing is, it's just it's just really, really terrible. I actually wanted to record Brandon. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Brian. I keep even writing that one. I gotta change his name every time. I don't know. I keep doing that. Hold on. So, yeah, this is the thing. Brandon or whoever, look, you're not going to fit into these categories. You don't have to keep sitting there. Look, you're imprisoning yourself. I would not be bound to them. I can recognize, I know who I am, right? And the thing is, you're trying to be something or trying to want to be smart. And I think this is the thing. He still has a false identity of that because it's almost like I hasn't exactly identified that, but almost like he basically fixed that or made it or did something or whatever, because he expresses basically how he didn't think he was smart enough or whatever. Now, the thing is, the only people I'll call stupid, by the way, is if I recognize that person is, well, stupid because you're so vain and it is a problem. Trying to be something that you're not, but you're lying, you're manipulating others or whatever. And I had no problem calling people stupid. That was one of the rules that basically I was not allowed to do in a private school as a preteen or I don't know what you call a 12-year-old, 11, 12, 13-year-old or whatever. But anyway, so, I enjoy saying that only against evil people who basically want to sit there and try to scapegoat me as being stupid for simply enlightening them kindly, and they just want to sit there and flip it backwards or whatever. So it all depends. It all depends on the person. I don't cause pain to people suffering or whatever, and people will sit there and be how they are suffering. He does bring up some of that a little bit. And this is the thing. He tries to express this thing about trying to be smart, and he just wasn't smart enough. The thing is, what does that mean? Look, this is what I tell people. Look, speak what you know. It will be built on that. I teach it over and over and over. That was stolen from me actually by another pastor, and he still continues to do the same thing and just speak what he doesn't know. And it's just smart. What is that? Now, I've been called stupid all my life or whatever. That's only by stupid people, and they were evil. And it was basically a ungodly jealousy thing. And the thing is, it's just look, this is the way I look at it. I've talked to a lot of people who they didn't know very many things, right? But I mean, they were teachable, but they were a very simple person, some mentally challenged or whatever, and I can have an enjoyable conversation with them. It actually has to control me and what I say, because they're not going, and it has nothing to do that they're stupid, because they're not going to comprehend everything that I say. Like, I mean, yeah, I have to use a range. It's kind of like when you're cooking food or whatever, the perfect temperature is right for whatever temperature you're using it for to the fullest of what that food needs. Okay. So the thing is, it's just that, if you put up too much heat, it's just going to burn your food. If you don't basically put the heat up high enough, it's not going to cook your food properly. And the thing, and it could be, you can, the food can become like toxic or go bad or whatever. And the thing is, it's like there's a right temperature for the right thing, for the right food that you need to balance out. Okay. So every time it is full, and it is full of what is needed. Okay. So the thing is, that analogy is of my own, by the way. So it is new. I did not use that one before. That was pretty good. I liked it. So the thing is that, look, the whole thing is I actually had a question. Like, I actually really believed that I was mentally retarded because I was called retarded so many times. And yes, I basically, when people who treat me like that, will call them a retard. Yes, I will. Especially if they are stupid and willfully, because they're denying willfully reality and the truth, okay, because they're evil. So there is a difference, okay? So I believe that everybody's cup is full, by the way. This is the way I put it. And there's the degree of how much knowledge you have. Look, I've told people, I said, they're like, wow, I mean, I was actually surprised at what they were saying to me, and I had it happen a few times. I don't know if I wanted to believe it or not, or whatever, and I had a question, but I'm coming against evil people who basically just deny reality. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to present this intelligence or whatever, and it all depends how or why or who I'm talking to. But the thing is, if they hate knowledge, well, it's not going to be nice. Okay. And like I said, knowledge should be a basic small little thing. Like I just said, knowing what temperature to cook your eggs on is an intelligent thing, So, it's good to have a good temperature eggs and have a good texture and not being burnt, not having burnt eggs. I'll tell you about that. And that principle could be used in many things in our lives. So anyway, the thing is that, I'm going to tell people, they can sit there and talk about like people making people not feel good enough and all these other things or whatever. If you're evil, you're not good enough. I'm sorry, there's so many evil things and so many evil things that I've seen, experienced, and basically I have researched and viewed or whatever, and and yes, Jesus sat there and said, oh yeah, those people, oh well, not good enough for the kingdom of God. Okay, so he said, unless you basically do the will of my God, no, you can't answer. No, you're not good enough to come in. That's right. I have no apologies for that. I'm not gonna bear no false guilt for me to sit there and say you're an asshole. Now, people may do things or evil things or whatever. They sit there because they find it's like hopeless and pointless or whatever, and they go do evil. Like, I understand all these things. I observed all these things. Okay? And it's just like, and people will do like just things because it's just like, okay, well, I'm never going to be good enough anyway. Like, I understand all those things. But I'm sorry, if you're going to choose to be evil, you're just not, there's some people just not good enough for different things. I'm sorry, you're just not. Now, if you feel insecure and you basically listen to the lies that people say and told you that you're not good enough and you feel all awkward and you'll never fit in, you're thinking all these things or whatever, and they're false things, okay, and you're doing all these things, and it's just like, if you're not accepting to do good, this is why you're not fitting somewhere. Okay, you're not even going to think about it. You have to think about like who you are to how do I say this, to other people if it's a wrong thought or whatever. But the thing is, people are taught to so much obsess over themselves. And the thing is, it's like, I have no problem examining myself. It's appropriate to examine ourselves. It's written in the Bible. It doesn't matter if it's there or not. To sit there and examine yourself, this is a good thing, But it says examine yourself. Don't sit there and basically try to bury yourself with something that's a false idea that's not even true, So, yeah, I'm going to go on. I'm not going to feel sorry or pity on anybody who basically, there are people who abused me, neglected me, did all these things or whatever because, well, and it happened because, well, of a shame. I actually just wrote about that. Like people hiding or whatever, because of their own shame and things like that or whatever. I hid from people, not because of my shame, but because, well, they were evil. And there's people that attack people because of their own shame. Now, the thing is, they had to flip it backwards a little bit here. This is not how they were speaking about it. They were flipping it backwards and basically claiming that, you know, their victims, like, are holding some kind of a shame or guilt or something, that they're guilty of something because they're shy or because they won't talk to them or things like that, and blaming the victims. This is what they were doing before. So anyway, I'm just gonna put. I don't know if I finished my sentence before. Oh yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Did I? I don't know. I'm gonna record this. I didn't want this late in the video, but whatever.
Back when I was in high school,
Bluetooth
beliefs that my friends date. You know, why don't I have a girlfriend? You know, why is it so hard for me to be in a relationship? When I looked at myself, I did not like what I saw. Physical appearance was everything at that time for me. And the belief that I came to have of...
That's so sad because, you know, when I first found love, like, I didn't even think about any of these things. I didn't even think about, like, looking for a date or a boyfriend or anything. Somebody tried to set me up with this boy or whatever, and he even wrote me a note. You know, it would be my girlfriend. We were not actual girlfriend and boyfriend. We became friends, though. And the thing, I just wasn't ready at the time. And I'm sorry, there's another story, but at the time, like, I wasn't ready to have a boyfriend, so it was just like, you know, I think we had held hands once, you know, it was awkward. I kind of just, like, went away from it or whatever. We became friends. So eventually, I did fall in love, right? And later on to the world, I didn't think of it at the time, right? Because apparently, I mean, I thought he was just amazing. He was fun. He was, like, completely my opposite, right? And people used to go around making fun of us and sing the song Opposites Attract, right? And he's saying was, I'm like, no, don't, or whatever. So I was actually a little introverted person at the time or whatever, and he was wild, but I thought it was exciting, right? I mean, he was sitting there and he would, like, kick out these tacones with the back wheel of his bikes. You know, he was doing, like, BMX bike tricks or something like that. This is back in, like, you know, like, I don't know, around, like, how old was I when I was 14, like around, like, 88, 89, maybe something like that or whatever. So, I mean, he was wild. He would do bike tricks, skateboarding, and I'd never seen anything like this in my entire life, right? I'd never seen these bikes either, right? Trying to think if I ever seen a skateboard. I think, you know, yeah, I think I basically remember, like, one of those little skinny little boards, you know, it's like orange or something. It's like kind of plasticky or something. I remember that being around among the kids' toys or something like that. I don't know, from neighbors. But anyway, so, he was wild, but the thing is, it was almost like, it was like me and my brother, where it was just like, when we were little kids, like, he was like the adventurer, wild person, like, he was very wild, and I would follow him, and we would build tree houses and things like that together, and do wild things and whatever, but I was by myself. I would be more like a quiet, playing by myself we had the sweeping willow tree, I played under there a lot, and and playing in water. Well, I had an obsession with water, by the way, when I was a child, so, the thing is that, yeah, I'm going to go on. So the thing is, it was just like, it was fun. It was exciting for me or whatever. So, but it wasn't, look, this is the thing. People adapt. If you're adapting to your environment, other people's characters and identity, you become part of them, no matter what. You know, I mean, and it's not like you're changing or becoming something else or somebody else. So the thing is, it's just like, I mean, you're being interested. Like, he's talking about, like, you know, he wasn't good enough for basketball. Now, look, this guy, he's a basketball coach. And the thing is, I just want to let you know, God's not going to give anybody a gift or basically call anybody to be a basketball coach. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying it's a sin or something wrong. It is, if it takes up a lot of your mind, you are a pagan, by the way. So a true pastor cannot in any way, shape, or form basically focus on, especially if you claim to be melancholy, cannot focus on being like, have this obsession with basketball and being a basketball coach and all these other things or whatever. It's not going to happen. I'm actually have to do another part of the video. I'm going to talk about more about melancholy. So I'm going to record this guy. I'm going to end it with that. And I'm going to continue in another video. I keep saying that and I don't do the other video. And I have like a lot of, they're just like hanging there, I guess. I don't know.
Myself was that I just wasn't attractive enough. I wasn't wanted. Imagine how powerful that belief can be for someone. I'm not happy enough. See, one of the things about me as a melancholy personality is that I don't really get excited like Nelda does, you know? That's why she stands by the door, because everybody wants to see Nelda because of her personality, and other sanguines have that gift. I don't.
She is a sanguine, choleric, smiling psychopath, by the way. It's not a gift. So your temperament can be contaminated, and you can be an evil, smiling psychopath, a term that I coined myself. And she's got everybody fooled. It's unbelievable. She's a pathological liar. She has severe mental disorders. They actually called me mentally ill to get away with their abuse. It's a typical scapegoating thing by abusive people, where they basically scapegoat their victim if you expose for what they really are. They will sit there and basically call their victim mentally ill because of their own shame and insecurities and scapegoat their victims. It's really, really disturbing.
But when I was younger, I wasn't just a melancholy, I was moody. Why are you so moody all the time? I didn't know. I thought there was something wrong with that. Come to find out that it's just who I am. It's my personality. It's a part of me learning about myself. But back when I was younger, it was a bad thing. You know, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Why aren't you happy right now? It sounds...
So his shallowness is expressing that he is not... Look, okay, I'm not going to sit there and relate to being melancholy as something spiritual, okay? But there's something that people want to link a melancholy. I mean, people speak against it, people speak for it. You can find these arguments, debates throughout the many Greek philosophers throughout the centuries, like before Christ, after Christ, and continual. So what people, you know, there's different doctrines, what people express about what the four temperaments are, or melancholy and things like that, by different people. So this has been an interesting debate throughout the years. So in the DSM, melancholy is considered basically a mental illness. So I'm going to go on.
Sounds silly, but it was true. And I actually didn't know how to answer that question. And then all of a sudden you add to that, you know, when I was in elementary school many times, and even in middle school, probably high school, being picked last in gym class or at recess. And you've probably heard us in church talk about this at time, that God chooses you. And you remember back in that times, oh my goodness. Remember back times where, you know, you were at recess and you got picked last, but, you know, God chooses you. And that's all true. But as a 10-year-old, as an 8-year-old, constantly not being included in things at recess or being picked last, and in gym class, kind of realizing and seeing.
What I thought about that, look, this is the thing. I was sitting there listening to him before, when I was thinking about that before. I actually was sitting there saying, like, oh, look, I was always by myself. And the thing is, the only thing became uncomfortable and a problem when somebody pointed it out to tell me, like, how wrong I was. Or I didn't say it like, they didn't say it like that, but it was just like, I was like, kind of like, you know, smirked at, or, you know, or something like that. Or, they would express my exclusion or exclude me and things like that, or whatever. And I was often by myself. So the thing is, it's just like, they don't understand that I was like content and I wasn't questioning it at the time. They were. Okay, and somebody, because you're different, or they didn't use those words or whatever, but the thing is, there would be something, or somebody would like say some sly remark or whatever to me, or laugh at me like going by or whatever, and it's just like, I was content. I don't, I never questioned it. If I would smile at other kids, and and encounter other kids or whatever, and then they go off and have their friends or whatever, and and I'd be just off doing my thing. But the thing is, it's just that I wasn't picked. I was the last one picked because I was very like shy and introverted, and it's just like I really didn't want to do gym. So I had a couple of teachers had to talk to me. This thing, I was right? I'll tell you why. Because I wouldn't like. First of all, I didn't know I had asthma at the time when I was a kid. Nobody acknowledged I have asthma. But my chest and my heart would hurt like if I ran. The pace that they wanted me to run. Now, I ran through the woods or whatever. I wasn't like a fast running or trying to keep up with something or playing in a sport or whatever. But I ran through the woods. I did things or whatever, but it was at a natural, moderate pace. I didn't realize if I was moderating it or something like that. But I realized it was different when I was in gym and I had to do their activities. So, I was always active, climbing trees, building forts with my brother and things like that, walking down the street, riding bikes, and doing all these things. It's just that it felt different when I was in gym and I was supposed to do these things. This is the thing. So I participated, okay, in these activities. Now, one time, it was like in a church, and they're like, okay, so people, noticed I was by myself, so I got to stand next to the picture, right? So they wanted me to participate in it or whatever, because I'm by myself. I was content, okay? And like I got smacked in the face with a soccer ball. I'm not done. So I'm in school. This is a public school, right? I'm sitting there again, they were playing dodgeball or something. Now, this one didn't hurt, but I got smacked in the face again with those red poing ball. They poing, like they made a sound, right? When they hit you or hit something. So the soft ones, right? Boom, right? So that didn't hurt so much. But something seemed to happen every time, right? So then I'm sitting there and I have to run. So I remember it was the first time I participated, and it was kickball, right? And it was with the hard ball. It was like a soccer type ball or whatever. And I'm sitting there. So I'm running to first base, right? And somebody throws the freaking ball at me, and my legs go out from behind me, under me, I'm sorry, and I sprained my ankle. So I'm right, okay? So look, there was no reason for me to be the wrong one when I wasn't participating in these things. I was content by myself. I was more scared that something was going to happen to me. And it's not paranoia. It's something I did not know. Like, it happened. It happened every time I was injured. So anyway, I'm just kind of
saying that, man, I'm not being, kind of picked on these teams that I think I ought to be picked on. In fact, I kind of seem to keep ending up on all these other kids who are not athletic as well. What that keeps telling me, it's more than just I'm not athletic enough. This was deeper. This was, you're not important enough. You don't belong. A little bit different. And
so I had like kids that were mean to me, and I don't know how I thought about it. It was kind of mean. It's only, like I said, it was only when they encountered me to let me know that. Okay, so it was just like, I had this. Okay, you know what? It's 43 minutes. I'm gonna have to do that on another part. I think I did talk about the 4 in other videos or whatever, but I'm gonna end that at 43 minutes. But look, I didn't get in a conversation with this. Like, I just had fun, and it was almost like I was engaging with Brandon here. So, look, dude, let me just end with that. He just shouldn't basically try to fit himself into these categories, because, look, he doesn't fit in it. And look, I don't either. Like, am I basically a more analytical, deep person? Yeah. Is he? No. He is not a deep thinker like he tries to claim, and he expresses something that's really not deep as is like deep. I've seen the facial images in regarding William Clay. William Clay knows it. Right, he does. That's why he's doing this, by the way. He's trying to echo William Clay, by the way. And like I said, he basically went back and forth. He basically tried to echo William Clay, speaking the opposite of this whole identity thing. Now he's pretending he's speaking about identity when William Clay changed it. He probably did it on purpose, so I'm going to end with that.